So, I'm a mess today. That's the short version. And being at home, I'm a mess. I thought I was just not even in a functional state at all. And then somebody came over and I ended up talking to them, and I was feeling better in a way, and here's why. And this is why I realized this sounds weird, hard to explain. It's kind of hot in here. That might be partially why I'm out of breath, and I rushed up here, and it sounds ridiculous. Why do I do that? Why is it a marathon when I'm literally at home doing nothing? Not literally, I'm kind of doing things, but just run up the stairs. For someone who doesn't do a whole lot with their life, I do seem to run a lot and other things. So I'm trying to clean my room, and I thought, while I'm doing it, I talk, even though what would make me feel more happy and motivate and improve the experience of cleaning right now would be to listen to music, and it would probably run a lot more smoothly. And actually, I'm not even cleaning my room. This is the problem, because I had not planned on cleaning my room because I don't know. Anyway, it's the thing about my room is I get so uncomfortable. At first I move things and I'm like, oh, this is great, and then after a while I get so uncomfortable, and I'm like, I just have to move things. I just can never seem to like it. I mean, I never really love it, but I have days where I'm more okay with it than others, and I can just never just find satisfaction in the room. It's always wrong, and I don't know if it's necessarily wrong or if it's just that I don't feel good, and my brain's finding fault with everything and trying to needs maybe if I change things I'll feel better, and in reality I just waste so much time moving things. And so I try to resist it, I try to be well, this is stupid, it's just a waste of time, even though you have this strong urge to just start rearranging your room. Maybe you should try to just not get distracted, because that's the thing about ADHD or anything, is you waste so much time on stuff that can even feel important at the time, but you just can't stay on task to actually do what actually is important. It's very confusing. And so then I have to be okay, I have a million thoughts in a day of things I want to do, and I gotta try and I really want to do all those things. I'm oh, I gotta do this, gotta do that, and I gotta try and resist the urge to do. I'm still out of breath. Because I ran up the stairs. It's also hot. I might have said that. So it's I gotta be this is stupid, don't do it. But today, unfortunately, the ADD thing is bad. And so basically, I feel I'm getting nothing done today. I'm I might as well give in to the urge to move things in the room, because then it'll feel like something actually happened. Because then my room, hypothetically, I don't know if it's true, but it'll hypothetically feel better. In my mind, I think that moving the furniture will make me feel better, and I'll like the room better, but I don't actually know if that's true or a myth. I don't know what's true with all my ideas that I get, what's actually the right thing to do with my time and energy. I just don't know. That and that, the way I just said that is actually really good, because that put something into words that I would never have thought would come out in words like that. But I have this confusion, how am I supposed to allocate my time and energy? And It drives me crazy. And then there's this stupid question, which I don't really believe anybody has the answer to, or 90% of people don't really know the answer to. Okay, the stupid question is, I just got distracted. I was just thinking about how I like red and hot pink. I have days where I really notice I like those colors, and those are the days when I'm drained, I think. My energy is low and I'm all out of it. But the question is, and this is another reason I hate my room, because there's so many things I look at that distract me, and this is why my thoughts are all over the place. I'll show you the other thing. The question is, this cracks me up. I just painted that. I don't know. I really need to not do things like that. But what do we need to do for happiness? We're all pursuing happiness the wrong way. We all think it's like success or money or whatever, and then like people like make these stupid YouTube videos, I think they're stupid, and like write books on it, like we got happiness all wrong. I'm like, I never thought that was happiness. That was just happiness for people who were in the fortunate position to, it's not even fortunate, it's like, why does anyone think success, what does that even mean, success? And I'm so sick of that, honestly. Okay, I'm getting off topic. I have a million thoughts in my head and it drives me crazy. And part of the reason is because even though not a whole lot happened in my life, I go on the internet and I go on Reddit and I read, and I also like end up talking with people and then having these conversations that I shouldn't, because then I start thinking about that stuff. And then now I've got a million things in my head that I'm thinking about. And I wonder if I just like avoided those things, it becomes like weird. It's like my brain, like if someone brings up this stupid concept of happiness that I just brought up, I will continue to like argue it in my head after, which I've heard is an ADHD thing. Like, it's just bizarre the brain does that. And it's like somehow I feel like must be a part of me that feels like I need to have an answer to that question. And like, I kind of know what the answer is, I just can't put it into words. But somehow it feels like something I have to deal with because, I don't know, because someone had to argue with me about stupid stuff. And it's weird. I don't know if it's just an ADHD person problem. To me, I don't necessarily think it is, because it's the same reason why you just shouldn't give advice to people. And like, I don't know if everyone hates getting advice, but typically the problem with advice is that that's one of the things it does to you. Like, it's like they're trying to argue with you. When someone's giving you advice, it's like they're already starting an argument with you, because you didn't ask for that advice. It's not like, it's like stupid, like it's usually feels like it's coming from a patronizing or condescending place. But the thing about advice is like, if someone's like, well, you should take this pill, or you should meditate, or you're pursuing happiness all wrong, you got happiness wrong, let me tell you how to pursue happiness. Basically what you're telling someone, you're giving unwanted advice, or basically what you're doing is you're starting an argument with them where now they have to defend themselves and be like, okay, like, I have to explain myself now, like, why that's not gonna work for me, or why I already tried that, and you're not, like, I don't know. That's basically what it is. I don't know how to put it into nice, simple words. But I have a really huge problem with the concept of trying to pursue happiness. Like, it's like we're always supposed to do things, right? So they say, this was one I do agree with, that if you're trying to pursue happiness, then you're gonna like be unhappy as long as you're actively trying to pursue it. And this is something I found, is that you're trying to figure out like how to be happy and how to like make plans. You're always like trying to plan for, if I do such and such, I'll have happiness if I reach this goal or accomplish this thing or get this thing, right? And the thing, it's really loud out there. The problem with that is that like now you're actively putting this work into pursuing something that's supposed to give you happiness, but you're not sure that that's actually going to lead to happiness. And this is a problem I have. I'm not sure if other people have that, but I've heard, I think there was a talk or something on it, somebody that I think might have written a book on that concept, that pursuing happiness is going to keep you unhappy. And I think that's why, and I should read that book, but I always think of all these books I should read. And so this goes back to the thing of, okay, I have a million thoughts in my head, and part of the problem is because I don't actually know if I should clean or organize my room or work on something else. Like how do I allocate my time and energy? And I don't have the answer, and I'll sit there very confused in life. And it's horrible. It's like, I kind of think, I wonder how much people, this is like I found something I'd been missing. It was on the floor. I'm glad I found this. I should put it somewhere where I won't lose it. So I'm gonna lose it there. Let's see. This is why I can't be inside. One of the reasons I can't be indoors. I just need a really minimalist setup, because this is a huge problem. I really wish I had this fixed. This is one of the answers to happiness, is how to not be distracted, not have a million things around me that are distracting me, and like really simplify my life, which there's books on that, but I don't know if it's more books I'd have to read. And right now I just don't feel like I have the time, but like on a day like this, when my mind's just a mess, I guess might as well read a book, and I'd at least feel a little accomplished. I tend to feel a little better when I read books, as opposed to letting my thoughts go all over the place, or trying to read stuff online and like not even remembering all the random bits of info. Like, at least with a book, you have it in hand. I think maybe it's both the fact that it's a physical thing and the fact that it has a beginning and an end, so you have a clear image of your mind of the book, versus like reading lots of stuff online from different places. Books are good. I always think like, oh, I don't have time for a book. It always seems like, oh, but I'm working on all this other stuff. But then what does that do? Like, I reorganize my room a million times, and my mind's distracted, and maybe I should have just read the book on decluttering or minimalism or whatever. There's probably a million minimalist books and things out there. Anyway, and you don't, number one, whatever I was just talking about, and number two, don't talk to idiots on the internet, and don't hang out in the stupid parts of Reddit, and I don't know, unless you want to start becoming good at debating, which that's part of the problem. Maybe the reason I get into it is I think it's something I have to do to be okay in life, is to be able to debate and explain myself. And I want that to be less of an issue. I want to like try and convince my brain to stop, but my brain like seems to want to do its own thing. And this wasn't what I was planning on talking about, but I don't feel like switching gears, but it'll happen on its own. Basically, what happened is somebody came over, and even though I'm like in this state where my mind feels like a mess, and my brain feels like mush, and I'm like having trouble making decisions, my brain's all over the place, and I can't seem to do a thing. Like once I'm like have a thought of a thing I'm going to do, I completely forget it, or like distracted and then completely forget the other thing I was doing or thinking, and it's in the end it seems like I don't end up doing anything. And so sort of a short-term memory loss thing seems to be possibly going on there. And then my mind was like blanking and stuff, and so I thought I wasn't gonna be, I thought I was just not functioning at all, and it's just how it was. And then with this person, it was like, felt like completely different, because it was like, oh, I could easily like find myself saying something around them without my mind feeling all confused. I mean, I maybe would stutter a little when I talk, but like it didn't require me to, I could tell my brain still was like a little out of it, because when they would talk, sometimes I'd not hear what they were saying, because that's what happens, right? They'll be talking and you'll be like, okay, I didn't really hear like half of what they were saying. And it gets worse, like the fog starts to lift up, or whatever, it gets foggier in your head, feels foggier. So it's not like it was gone, but it was just like not as frustrating. It's almost like it didn't even matter, whereas when I was at home, I'm like losing my mind, and I can really tell that I'm in not the greatest functioning state. And with them, it was like I felt like a burst of energy, and it's probably because I didn't have to try so hard, so it was just like really minimal use of energy, if that makes sense. And because I think what happens is the more I'm like trying to fight the ADHD or whatever, the more I'm like using up energy, so it feels like I'm like so drained of energy. But if I'm doing something easy, it seems like I have all this energy. I don't know how the best way to try and put that into words. So one thing I realized is that like all of a sudden life went from feeling like a nightmare to being like, oh, this is easy. And it also helped with this thing I'm calling social anxiety, which basically like when I'm by myself at home, I imagine like all these bad things when I think about like talking to people or talking period, and like how I'm going to have to deal with all these negative reactions from people, all these unpleasant things, and how I have to like be careful what I say or not say things, or like basically anything I say will be basically, in the end, I kind of decide that everything I say is going to be bad or wrong, so I might as well not speak. Like, it's just like kind of, I don't know how ridiculous that is or not, but it starts to feel like I just shouldn't, there's nothing left that I can say that's okay, that's going to turn out well. So that happens more when I'm at home. But then when I'm actually interacting with a person that isn't like an agreeable person, because some people are awful to be around, or the things always go wrong when you talk to them. But if it's like most people, like there's not, I just like, I feel natural talking. I don't get that apprehension or anything. It just suddenly can be gone. Which is kind of weird, that when there's actually a person in front of me, I just find myself talking. I'm like, oh, everything's going fine. But if it's in my head, it's almost like I can only draw upon memories and be like imagining myself in my head talking and it being like rehearsed and it all just going wrong. So that like turns into an awful thing when I'm home and I'm having these ADHD moments. And so that's one of the reasons. Okay, so one, like just talking naturally and then like having all the apprehension about being around people go away. And number two is that just feeling like a burst of energy, whereas before I was like, oh, it's like I was in mud. And it's really weird because it's just like a huge shift that I'm not sure I can explain, but I'm just, now I'm having a moment. I don't know. I don't have to try and explain it, but it's just what happens. It's like sometimes it feels like I pick up on people's energy. It's like something about people when there's like this feeling of like they're energetic or just have the right kind of energy. Like if it is someone who's like bitter or something, like, you know, it might not have worked in the same way. And so this brings me to like my point of like why I'm having difficulty with work lately. Because it was driving me crazy because before I would feel good when I went to work. It was just, I don't know, I just enjoyed going to work. And then the last couple times, when I went to work, I just was not feeling good and I wasn't happy. Normally, like it would lift my mood. I kind of liked it. I felt lighter when I go to work and kind of enjoyed it. And now it was like it was gone, and I was like, am I just tired of doing this stuff? I'm not sure, but what I remember, what I think it is the same sort of thing that happened with this guy where I felt better. Like my energy got lighter and I didn't have to think so hard either. And like stress out over saying things a perfect way or trying to find the right plan for my life or all this stuff that I can't seem to handle with ADHD, and which I'm not 100% sure is ADHD issue or not. And it's just like a lighthearted atmosphere and good energy with the people. And one thing I noticed, like one of the jobs I went to, like people barely talk to each other. People seem really busy, and there's just like very little of those positive interactions. Versus at the other job, you know, there's still like people say hi, they're happy to see each other. There's just like this positive vibe. And that might be all it is that simple. Like last time I went in, I feel like people just weren't very friendly, I guess. It just didn't have that kind of vibe anymore. It's different people than the ones we used to have before, and I don't know why that is. So I don't know, it just went to the point of work feeling tedious because when I go into work and it's like you're just working and you're just focused on your work versus, people might, you know, say hi to each other and smile and like they have those little, like, not necessarily a whole conversation or anything, but those, little bit of talking between working and or whatever. It is, I think that might be what it is. That's like my problem with work is I can't seem to handle the cold environments and the like just focus on work. It's the social aspect seems to lighten it up for me. I don't know. But that seemed to be what it is. I don't like it's like when I try and think about it, I'm like, I don't know, I feel lost, and that's the problem with me all day trying to think and like but when I actually experience it and I actually like today like saw the shift in how I felt and then I could be like, okay, there is a definite shift in like my mood and energy. And it's kind of strange. It's still a little mysterious to me how it works. And I shouldn't like try and think too hard, especially because my brain's not working great. So I shouldn't. I should just accept it and just try situations and see how I feel and remember how it makes me feel. I don't know. My brain's just not accepting it somehow, but. And it just, like, my experience with work throughout my life was more, like, cold. So it's hard for me to imagine being able to have a job that isn't, and it just feels heavy. I don't know if it's just my reaction to it, but like, when there's, like, more lighthearted and friendly and people chat a little, it just, like, feels lighter, and I feel more relaxed and almost, like, I'm less stressed or anxious, maybe. Like, the job doesn't feel so heavy, maybe. And I hate that I don't even know that for sure, but it's just, it also breaks up the monotony. Like, I don't realize it, like, how much just talking to somebody while you're working makes a day, like, feel less long. And it just feels like it goes on forever, when you don't have something. And, you're just, like, working hour after hour. Like, that's how it felt last time. I was like, wow, this day's feeling so long. I also, like, I was like, maybe it just feels long because I'm tired, because my body was aching, and I wasn't in the best state, and that could be why. But I feel like the cheer makes, having the more cheery environment makes a difference because even if you feel tired or you're just not feeling good, you still have like a positive memory. It depends. I'm not sure about that. It's good to have at least some kind of positive memory, even if it was bad in ways. It helps to have something that feels good when you think back on it. So this is, I don't know, this is like very anxiety provoking for me to think about this stuff. I have a really bad problem with it, and this is like the problem with being at home again, with like, I have, like, just thinking about interactions with people is anxiety provoking, though most of my actual interactions with people are like pleasant and relaxing, but when I remember it, when I think in my head, when I'm not actually with a person, it's thinking about interacting with people is like stressful and all this feels like all this bad stuff. And then it's the same thing about work, that when I think about work, it just brings up more of a negative feeling, and like all the unpleasantness of work that I've experienced. And it's just it turns into a real bad thing. And I wish I could just have a job where things were okay, and then just like I could interact with people who are okay and not have to deal with, and get over that, like not be stuck in my head planning and imagining talking to people and having it all just be negative, and actually like be able to have a situation where I'm interacting with people and that's not true, and it's proven to me that that is not true, that all these bad things aren't necessarily going to happen. It's not going to be a bad it's not going to turn out bad. It's going to be fine, and everything's fine. You don't get stressed out. There's not going to be drama and tragedy, but in my head it's just all bad. And that's all I'm saying, is I need some real life situations that aren't bad, because that seems to be the only way. I don't think like there's a way to like make, maybe if things get better with my brain, maybe it won't like be stuck in all this negative stuff. I always think there's different things going on, right, with your brain, and what makes you stuck in the negative, or having what makes you feel scatterbrained or whatever. And I don't know what exactly the answer is for me, but there's a lot to think about there, honestly. Like I'm trying not to go sidetrack into thinking about all the things, because it's hard to figure out, to try and like is debug the right word? Debug your brain or whatever is like a lot of work. It's a whole project. And this is another one of those things where I have to say to myself, is it worth your time and energy to do this project, or should you just try and shut it off and not think about it? There's a million things I think about in a day, or start to think, well, I have to figure this thing out. And it's endless. And this is my problem, where I wish life just worked smoothly and I didn't have these problems, because I have a million problems that don't have simple solutions, that I'm like, oh, I have to debug this and debug that, and I have to read all these books because nothing in my life is working out. I'm like hoping for the day when things will just start magically fitting together. I don't know, because I can't do all that work. I don't have all the time and energy to fix everything and figure everything out. And life should be run more smoothly, more easily. There should be simpler answers. But anyway, I'm supposed to be moving more furniture than I have been, and it's this is how long it takes, because I have to clear everything, which I don't know where all this stuff even comes from. I could talk a lot about life, but it would be rambly. Like at this point, I'll start going into all these crazy thoughts in my head, and that go all over the place, that don't have resolution, and my mind is still foggy. I think it's worse when I'm indoors, it seems to clear up when I'm outside, and that could be another reason why I was doing better. I found that, that's another thing I found about places where I work. It does seem to be, I do seem to feel lighter when there's just good air, like spacious places that don't have as much stagnant air. And I've noticed like my problems with breathing today, and I was about to look into that because I'm always brainstorming what I should do about that, because air quality does affect me. I'm very sensitive, and in ways that I don't always realize like what's going on. I don't always pick up like why I'm having a reaction, or like the reactions can be very subtle. So that's another reason why I might have felt a bit better. My brain was like I felt like so energized after that, and my brain wasn't like feeling like mush as much. But now I'm starting to feel like I'm going into mush more, and I am starting to feel like it's from being indoors. So the thing about happiness, let's see if I can remember my thought. I lost it. But it's kind of like I know, maybe this is what I was thinking, is I kind of know my own problems. Like I know what my problems is. I kind of do know what makes me happy. I don't know the root to it. And it's hard to put it all into words, and that's a problem. I wish I could just say, these are the things that make me feel bad, and I'm unhappy with these things. Just like being at home makes me feel bad, and when I'm like trying to think, and I'm like alone, and I'm like, the air feels thick, and whatever that, and it's not like a happy, cheery environment, because home just doesn't feel cheery, no matter how much I try and think of it in a positive way. It's just like I'm always gonna, maybe minimalism will help some of the problem, but I don't know if it make all the problem go away, but like I'm always, as long as it's like this and there isn't like more people around and fresh air and more of a cheery vibe to the place, and my mind is always distracted by everything, and my brain is always doing this thing it's doing, I'm just not going to be happy. It's that simple. I don't need to read a stupid book that says happiness isn't about buying things and success. I know. At least for me, that was never the issue. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm just looking to avoid these situations where I know I'm not happy, or make that somehow go away. Because stupid philosophizing about it, or like being whatever this book is trying to suggest, it's not going to make these things go away. It's not going to make it suddenly like go away unless you can tell me exactly how to fix these things. That's the only way it's going to go away. And then number 2, actual happiness is like achieving that, where I've had positive work experiences, which seems like an impossible thing, right? But I know that I feel better there. I know it exists. I'm not going to be like 100% happy and content and satisfied with life, but I'll feel a lot lighter. And I'm not going to necessarily have all my problems solved, but there's certain places, if only I could stay there in those places where I feel better, and not be in the places where I don't feel better, and like figure out the problems that like are always going to be problems even when I am feeling better. Because there's certain problems that like when I'm away from home, I'm not thinking about all the things I got to figure out and work on. When I'm home, it's like now I'm like at a place where I feel responsible and focused on solving my life problems. And you're also got like your chores. Now you're like, okay, I've got to do my chores. Like when you're away from home, at least for me, I don't have all that on my mind. I don't feel responsible for it. I'm not like it's like a habit, it's a mode I go into, I guess, where I'm like brainstorming, like, okay, I've got to make a list of the things I got to do. I'm like constantly brainstorming when I'm at home, and it's exhausting, but I just don't have answers. And so I kind of have to brainstorm. And I feel like the weirder my life has got, the more it's just gotten confusing. Like, when I was younger, I had this innocence. I wasn't happy as a kid, but at least I had this innocence of like knowing what to just pursue that I enjoyed. I can't do that anymore. At least when I was younger, it seems simpler, and you don't have to be your kid, you don't have to be responsible, and you have a very simple view of life. You could at least be like, oh, I'm gonna pursue like wearing this cute dress, or I'm gonna pursue decorating my room. I didn't have a whole lot I could do as a kid, so that's the sort of stuff I did. I probably, anyway, that's a whole story. But when I got older, it was like more and more stuff to think about that I hadn't thought about because I was naive. I had like such innocence as a kid. Like, now I like have to think so much about other people and like my interactions with them and all the, like, it just seems so complicated to deal with people now. And then I never even thought much about what I look like. I mean, I kind of did. I thought about it in a different way, but somehow in my confusion as I've gotten older, I like think a lot more about all this stuff I didn't think about, and I think it's stupid to think about all that, but it's also like now I have more responsibilities. Now it's like, well, like when I was a kid, I didn't think about minimalism, and now I'm like realizing I need to be, I need to worry about that. And when I had like the innocence of childhood, it just, you didn't worry about stuff like that because, you just don't have to think about how you're going to keep things clean and all the like things you have to be responsible for. And I don't know, but it's especially like more of a thing if you have ADHD. But according to studies, like everyone is like stressed out by clutter, at least. So I don't think that's specifically just ADHD either, but I think it's probably going to be worse if your mind's already a mess and you don't need that extra stuff on your mind. So yeah, this is my idea about happiness. It's that simple. It's that simple. And this is the problem with, there's something very strange about what I call therapy culture, and I'm not sure what the term is. It's like therapy culture, self-help culture, pop psychology. I'm sure people have come up with an actual term for this, but like the way that people will like take a self-help book or some philosophy and like try and apply it to everything and everyone in life, and they don't like try and understand a person's individual situation. Like, you could just directly ask me what happiness is for me, and I could explain, like I just did just now. I explained a lot of what it is for me. I don't know if like 100% I'd be happy, but I'd definitely be a lot happier, if the things I talk about were resolved. But then people, like, this happened to me multiple times, where people who don't barely, wait, number one, usually it's people who don't know me at all, or people who barely know me, like they've talked to me first a little bit, which you're not gonna understand my whole life or me from that little bit of conversation. They're doing the whole therapy speak thing, and the whole, I think therapy speak is a term. I think that's one of the terms maybe, but where they're like talking to me like they're a self-help book that doesn't apply to my situation, and I'm trying to explain to them, like, let me explain my life and the actual issues I'm dealing with, my actual problems. And then they still go off on this like philosophical thing that doesn't like isn't really grounded in actual practical life that we're trying to deal with. It's like you're trying to make a cake that tastes good, and then they get all philosophical about the cake. It's like, I just want to like put strawberries on my cake. That's the answer. Like, I want to put these things that I know I want on my cake to make it taste good. I know what I want. I know what will make a good cake for me. And then they're like, well, they'll like quote like some sort of self-help thing, like, you know, like you should try meditating, and like just stuff that feels like not really grounded in anything real going on. And the thing is, I feel silly talking about, because one thing I've noticed is that some people do it on purpose to troll you, or as some sort of like, to look down on you kind of deal. Like it's a patronizing thing, it's a power thing, and it's like word salad. It's like to confuse you and to confuse the situation. And I'm not sure how much those people realize they're doing that or not. And I don't know how many people that do this stuff are doing it on purpose. Um, it's just, but it's like a really bizarre thing that people do, and they still, like, they'll drive you crazy because you try to explain your practical issues in life. And no matter what you do to try and explain the situation, they'll still like be like, "Oh no, you're an idiot. You should meditate. That's the real thing. You should like follow this self-help type philosophy on life. You should seek out happiness in the simple things." And they keep going on like that, and you're like, "What did I say? Like, what am I not saying, right?" So that's what happens. It's just like, it's this bizarre thing that I wish I had the perfect words for other than therapy culture. But it's just insane to me. It's like, how many of these people are doing this on purpose? Because, like, what is going on there? What is that? Like, what is it? Psychological? Is it a power thing? Is it like, do they get off on this? Is it like a troll thing? Is this, I'm pretty sure trolls do enjoy doing that because they like saying things that make no sense. um so, but it's just like, seem like, I wish I knew what percentage of people were actually like that versus me just having to run across a disproportionate number of people who are like that. Because I have to try and think positive and remember my positive memories, basically, of people who weren't like that. I have to try and think, well, there was this one person who, when I explained my situation, was completely understanding and was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going on there. I've dealt with it myself. So those people do exist. But I think I've dealt with too much of the other kind of people, and I see it too much. I'm just like starting to get super annoyed. Like, I used to like a stupid self-help book about happiness and how you're pursuing it all wrong. Like, I used to just be like, okay, that's an interesting topic of discussion, but I wouldn't be annoyed with it. I might be like, yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of true, or I kind of agree with this, and maybe partly in ways it applies to my life, but does not like completely apply to my life. But I wouldn't get super annoyed with it. But at this point, I like can't even stand all that stuff anymore. It's like all upsetting to me, all the stupid, you know, therapy speak and self-help books and all this nonsense. It just, now it's at the point where, before I had more neutral feelings towards it, and it didn't feel like it was being, like at this point, because people like to take that stuff, they like to shove it down your throat, or whatever the saying is. I'm really bad with cliches, but now, because it's like that, it's turned into an ugly thing in my mind. It's like no longer just a nice book to like make you think about life or consider your own life. And it's just like, it's ridiculous how bad, like, it sounds stupid and I hate to admit it, but that stuff has driven me completely crazy. Like, the whole thing, everything has gotten me to a point. It feels like it's over. Well, it's that plus so many other things in my life and bad situations and things that I've dealt with, and like so much that I've been powerless against in my life. It's just like all of reality has like started to feel so heavy, and that's the problem with that stuff. Like, reality just feels like what am I supposed to do about all this? I'm like powerless against all this stuff that's just wrong, and that's like, it helps to just step outside and be with a person like I was today, who didn't make me feel all that bad stuff and didn't make life feel so hard. And I don't know if that sounds ridiculous. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's been bogged down by all this, and I don't think it's because I'm negative. Because, people want to say like, oh, it's because this or that. People always think they know everything. Not always. I like to think not everyone and not always. But it's ridiculous how much people have this arrogance that they do think they know. No, I mean, I don't know completely. Like I said before, I don't completely know the answer to why it feels that way, and it's just a lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of stuff that I've just been powerless against, and that is very real. That isn't me being negative. The way that it ends up happening, to where if I'm home by myself too much and my ADHD is out of control and I'm having to plan too much and think too much and all that, like I've described, that turns it into, that probably doesn't like help, but it doesn't deny the reality that like I've reached a place where I've just been very powerless, and I can't have the innocence anymore that I had when I was younger, where like I just wanted to do things. Like, I was like, I'll write a short story, or I'll pursue such and such goal and make this thing or do this thing, and like I lost that ability, and it's kind of insane. I lost the ability to just have like this. I just had this innocence that I could do things. It's not completely insane. I mean, partly it's like, when you're a kid, like, you can do a stupid project for like some competition in school, and it's not like spectacular. It's not anything you'd make money off of necessarily. You're an adult, you have to, it's got to be a little bigger. And so it's not as simple, and it's like, but I just lost this. I don't know if I will. Okay, now that I think of it, it's like I see other people who are like, I'm gonna write a book, and they can just do that, or like, I'm gonna do this or that thing, and I'm gonna start a small business. maybe over a decade ago, I used to be able to think like that. But now I can't. At least I could fantasize about it, at least. But now, I can't even consider. I'm not sure I can even consider, or even like fantasize about anything. It all seems like impossible. And I don't even know how people do stuff like that. I don't know, maybe I just learned that it was harder than I thought it would be. Like, you can't just start your own business. It's like you have to know a lot about how that works and do a lot of work to even get to the point where you can even start working on starting a business or something. But I'm losing my thoughts again. My mind's going to mush. Trying to think if there's anything else I can say. I'm kind of satisfied with the whole talking about therapy speak. I think about that a lot. The whole therapy speak thing. All these things are things that keep going in my head, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. Like, I gotta do something with these thoughts that just, things I just keep thinking about, and I don't know what to do. Like, write it down, but that's usually not that satisfying. I don't know what to do with it, and it drives me crazy, and I think a lot of things. I just can't, I can't shut off from my brain. It didn't used to seem to be like such a bad thing when I was younger. Like, they say with ADHD, our brain like won't, so it gets stuck in a certain state that for most people that don't have ADHD, their brain will only go into that state during certain times when they're not like focused on something and whatever. But with ADHD, we can't shut it off, so we're always like that, even when we're trying to focus on something or do a thing. And that mode is like something that sounds like awful now when you think about all this stuff that I'm thinking about all the time that just is driving me crazy. But I actually don't remember it being that annoying when I was younger. Now it's gotten to a point where it's like just all this annoying stuff. I don't understand that. Well, anyway, I talked for an hour, and I don't have the answer. I'd like to think more and reach some conclusion on all this thinking and where it's all headed and what it means, and if I should just try and turn it all off, because I feel like there's a purpose behind it. It's just like getting stuck and going nowhere, and I can't make sense of that. But I've been talking for an hour anyway, so